Hey, what's going on, DDO players? Axel here, back for another part of my DDO Retrospective series. This is part 4. In this series, I take a look back at prior updates, give my thoughts, opinions, and share some of my memories. In part 3, we finished with Update 19, so in this part, I will continue on with Update 20. Update 20 was called Critical Return. We saw quite a bit of gameplay changes in this update. The biggest one was the addition of new forms of reincarnation. Update 20 was where we got iconic and epic reincarnation in past lives. This was awesome because it gave people so much more to do in the epic levels. Instead of going all the way from level 28 to 0, you can now continue to improve your main character by keeping them in epic levels where, quite frankly, that's where most people wanted to play, I think. Heroic, at this point in the game, had been out for quite a long time, and people wanted to stay in epics, and a lot of people wanted to continue to improve their best characters. Another big addition in this update was the rebalancing of the XP curve, and everyone seems to forget about this and how big of a change this was, because I never see players today mention this, and I'm wondering if players forgot. But what they did was they dramatically reduced how much XP was required for the heroic lives. If you want to check it out, go to the DDO wiki and you can see just how much XP was taken out. But I remember prior update 20 leveling a third lifer and above through heroics, and it took forever. It's significantly shorter today, and it's great that they did that. I don't think they wanted people to have to make that long trudge through heroics anymore. And heroic past life feats were getting reduced in value in comparison to all the power creep and the epic reincarnation past life feats we saw introduced in this update. So I think it made sense. It was good to reduce the XP requirements because it did reflect the lowering of the usefulness of some of the heroic feats, heroic past lives. Now, I don't want to say they're not useful today. They certainly are. They're just not as good as they used to be, just as a result of the power creep. So what else did we get with this update? We got 2 new free-to-play quests, A Study in Sable and Brothers of the Forge. I think this was more or less just to throw players a bone. It was nice to get this content. It was free content. Brothers of the Forge was a nice return to Eberron. The developers hadn't made new Eberron content in a while, so it was nice to see something there. Also, the Study in Sable is a very, very well done quest. I give the developers a lot of props for this one. Very, very pretty quest. Very well done. If you haven't run this quest, go run it. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of incentives today to run this quest, but I wouldn't encourage you to do it just to go through the quest because it is that much fun. It can be a bit long, but it's very, very fun. We saw the introduction in Update 20 of a new enhancement tree for wizards and sorcerers, the Eldritch Knight, which was an attempt to make a melee tree for the arcane classes. I don't think it succeeded very well. I hardly ever see Eldritch Knights today, and I believe the general consensus is that the tree is underpowered, and I hope that the tree gets a look in the future and gets passed because it's just not quite competitive in terms of DPS, I don't think, for an arcane. With this update, we also saw the handout of the Raiders Reward Box. This was a handout which gave all players their choice of a Caught in the Web raid weapon for free, and it actually ended up being handed out again because some players didn't receive it. So certain players, like myself, we got 2 Raiders Reward Boxes. From what I've heard, from what I've read, now please correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've heard is that this was done because the 20th completion list was messed up by the developers when they made changes to the game. I believe it was when they made Update 20 and they could not recover it. So they didn't want to upset players that were very close to their 20th list and caught in the web, so they just gave everybody a Raiders Reward Box. And that was unfortunate because it was the death nail for Caught in the Web, which was older at this point, but it was still one of our few in-game raids. So it was too bad that it was closed like this, and the raid was just invalidated quickly because everyone had their loot now, so there was no incentive to run it. That's about it for Update 20. Let's move on now to Update 21, which was the Legendary Halls. a lot of quality content was introduced with this update. We got the standalone quest, The Haunted Halls of Evening Star, which is considered by many players the best quest in DDO, and even to this day is considered by many to be the best quest ever done by the developers. They had the great idea here to take a classic pen and paper module and implement it into DDO, and that was a fantastic idea. We've seen another module, the Temple of Elemental Evil, put into place, and we're going to see another one this year. We're going to see a third one, and this is what started all that. Very, very good quest. It's large, it's immersive, and you get that pen and paper feel. Very well done. We also saw Thunderholm in this update, which for a couple years remained the endgame at DDO. We got the Temple of the Deathworm and the Fire on Thunder Peaks raids. The Temple of the Deathworm gave us great weapons that even to this day are probably the best weapons in the game. We got Mortal Fear weapons, which are just amazing. They're actually too strong because they've been nerfed in the recent update. Not directly, the developers indirectly nerfed them by making Mortal Fear not work in legendary content. But the weapons were very much worth going for. Unfortunately, the raid had some issues. There were a lot of lag issues. Even a year after the raid was released, it still had lag issues, which was very unfortunate, and it shut a lot of people away from running it. We also saw, like I mentioned, the Fire on Thunder Peak raid, which a lot of people like. I think it's an okay raid. The gear is good. Again, it suffered from some lag problems like Temple of the Deathworm did, but it's still a pretty fun raid. We got the Divine Crusader Epic Destiny also in this update. I very, very much enjoy this Destiny. It's a nice mix-up from Dreadnought for my melee cleric build. It offered Consecrated Ground, which was a great source of healing for a lot of classes. It took the self-healing abilities up another notch. I know classes like Barbarian really utilized this before the Barbarian pass because it was one of the few ways they could actually heal themselves reliably in epic content. They could cast their Consecrated Ground, then they could swap on Rage, go DPS, and get healing at the same time. In addition to the Thunderforged weapons, we got some really good Thunderforged armors in this update. The Shadow Dragon plate, which offers 30 DR and 60 if you're under half health, was the armor to get, and it's still, in my opinion, the best armor in the game, at least for heavy armor. We also saw in this update one of the most tragic events ever in DDO, which was the 8th anniversary card event. And I say tragic because due to some designs in the event that were not working as intended, items could be duplicated on a massive scale. I never did this, but I saw this in game all the time. Basically, any item you want that could be duplicated, ingredients could be duplicated, cards could be duplicated. Players got stacks and stacks and stacks of raid bypass timers, which caused a lot of issues down the line with raiding. We also saw a lot of players duplicate Thunderforge ingredients very shortly after the content came out. So that did a lot of damage to the in-game scene. A lot of players didn't run the raids because they already duplicated their way to all the weapons they wanted. It was really unfortunate how long the duplication lasted and how long it took the developers to fix it. Fortunately, they did fix it. It just took way too long, and it did a lot of damage. So I don't want to talk any more about that, but it was one of the most unfortunate and saddening events in DDO because it just did so much damage to the game, damage we're still seeing today. We've seen the developers react a lot to what happened in this update with a lot of safety guards. Unfortunately, we see stuff like bound to account ingredients in Legendary Shroud, which in my opinion were probably a result of all this massive duping that happened in update 21. It's really made the developers scared, it seems, to give us unbound ingredients, or really a lot of unbound loot, because duplication is so hard, apparently it's hard to track down and fix. That's going to be it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed listening. Please comment below and let me know what you think. I'm really interested in hearing comments about these updates. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I will see you next time.